They still have the act.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody.
Hey, Blaine.
Good morning.
Morning, Blaine.
How's it going?
All right. Go into board, approval of board of minutes.
I'll move to approve the board of minutes.
I'll second
Any public comment? Being none, all in favor?
it.
Correspondence,
Last one, I didn't post online because it had the access codes for that meeting and I didn't know if it was a public meeting or not.
the first one from Bella Hurst. Please support our small business owned by Service the Disabled Vet. It's just somebody trying to sell stuff. Next one from Samantha Motorzoco.
Moscow?
Community progress and resources. See the invite from Headwaters, Kelly Sullivan. He's SCBV program director for Headwaters RCB. They just kind of keep getting more people too, don't they?
Yeah, they're doing their community economic development plan that they have to do every 5 years. So they're doing their in-person meeting on Thursday at 5, and they want community leaders to be there if possible to talk about needs of the community. That's the invite.
And next one's at Old Floyd. We didn't put it, it's not on, we just got it. It's an Old Floyd Settlement Region 3, 4, and 5 virtual meeting. Just showing when the meetings are gonna be. We just got this in, that's why it's not on the website.
What date is it?
It's for
Thursday.
Friday
This Friday.
from 11:30 to 1:30.
So I guess you'd have to decide if you're gonna be on as a commission or send Billy or have me do it or.
You'll do it, Ken.
Different blink her eyes.
Because it's just a simple thing and it's not like we have to make this decision. We've already made the decision that yes, we're accepting.
They might be talking about like representatives, but I don't know that they're actually making a decision, are they? I
I
didn't say.
think the development of, it would be my impression that it would be the development of the MOU between the counties.
So it's, yeah, no, I don't think it's thing life pressing there.
Thank you for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on correspondence? Being none, we'll move on to public comment.
Elena.
Ready?
Mhm.
Good morning. Go ahead, Elena.
Or maybe my thing, let me put it again. There we go.
Hello, what happened?
Good morning.
Good
Go
morning.
ahead, Elena.
Thank you. My comment was for correspondence.
Oh, sorry.
That letter, the correspondence that you got that wasn't in time to be on the website, when is that going to be put up? Today, Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
How much snow do you get?
More blowing than anything.
Maybe 2 inches yesterday.
No. About half.
At the most, then just a skip.
Well, skiing should be good. Once it's nicer. Was it good?
Yeah, it was nice this weekend. The snow wasn't super great, but it was warm out, which is nice to ski with kids when it's not
Yeah.
below zero.
Thank you.
Mako gave you a calendar?
Yeah,
And Cook Healthcare Trust. Did they give out for this office? Is this what you said?
there's one in here. They gave each of you one.
Each of us one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mako.
Mhm.
You want mine too?
She came by and hand delivered
No.
them on Wednesday.
Yeah, we got them upstairs too, so they brought a
Mhm.
bunch.
Public comment.
Remember next week's the courthouse Christmas party or county.
Yeah.
Christmas party. Don't want to invite just courthouse people, because yeah, the
So
public
I will
health.
will
and
make a
everything.
comment on that Billy was making a comment to me and kind of asking if commissioners were gonna like maybe bring the meat. Isn't
Like Arby's.
that what you kind of said?
Yeah, you guys, talked- yeah.
Because, okay. Here's the thing, it has happened in the past. I've already decided on a dish, I don't know what you guys are gonna do, but. You're gonna go to the luncheon, right? Why? Cause it's on Tuesday. Isn't it?
Mhm.
Anyway, I just wanna make it clear that I don't feel that the commission should take money out of their budget to buy something for a potluck for the courthouse crew that we're gonna contribute our own personally, and it isn't something that, and it's our own party that we're all agreed to host for ourselves, that the taxpayer should have to purchase something when we as employees can bring potluck.
The one reason that we did buy some stuff that time, there's the three of us sat here and we did not this, we had no clue what to bring or how to do it. So we just said, well, we get some, Bart was coming down to it, and he got chicken. And then the other time we got some spray or something.
So when you took it out of the budget,
I don't know, Bart paid, I kind of think Bart. paid.
okay, so that's the thing.
That's the thing, I'm not sure, I just wanted to clarify that. Those
This-
kids
this
were
just
staying-
is-
I think Bart might have bought that out of his own money.
I can't remember, but that was the whole deal.
And I know there was pulled pork one time
Yeah,
too.
that was the second. I think.
Maybe.
Might have paid.
Okay, so I mean, this is just, it's not that it was pulled out of the commissioner's budget, it's. And I don't feel it should be, if it'd be like the other offices pulling money out of their budget to fix their potlucks. Right, do you agree?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Did you go? "Mm"?
He gave-
As long as you don't say bah humbug.
Well, I had to walk to work today, so I got a little bit of.
Oh, all right.
Just remember, you gotta walk home because there's staves on that, and you,
Well, yeah, yeah,
and your battery's bad.
you think, okay. I went to start my truck and it started. And it's kind of, there's times when it doesn't want to start, and then if I hold it, it'll stay running, and then, and that's in the ignition, I thought. And then it started this morning, and then it quit, and then I turned it over, nothing, it was totally nothing. Nothing. So Is that better?
Welcome to my world.
They don't make batteries like they used to, I know that, you know.
Any other public comment?
Now everyone knows my
Limits.
granddaughter takes my car to work, I have to drive the old truck, and then when it doesn't start, I walk. There's my comment.
Okay, well, a couple minutes early, but we'll go ahead and jump into the report on road and bridge. What, Paul?
Just plowing snow. Pretty much it. We're gonna, strip that either later this week or the first part of next week, out of Middle Fork.
You're gonna do what?
Gonna strip get the knapweed and stuff stripped off of that, where he's gonna crush.
Oh.
And he's still planning on being in there in a week or so, so we don't really have much weather coming, so hopefully it'll work out good. But. Other than that, that's about it. Just been. Doing some wiring, light issues, and that type of stuff. Normal truck stuff, but,
Did we go to a guy working on Fridays in, or not yet?
oh, you know, we've had
That's
for
what-
a couple, 3 weeks, you know.
And I got asked that, and I thought I seen Brad.
I've had 2 guys,
Two guys.
Brad and Jim work Tuesday through Friday, and, oh, the other guys are Monday.
Just so we can tell people.
Yeah. Working on
I think
it.
it's a good deal, I mean, I'm like, they work a whole day.
Oh, yeah.
And
I just didn't know if we agreed that if they just, go and get those things off and.
No, cause that's their 40. That's not
I
our,
wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
about that, it worked out.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
just a reminder of Tom Mazza getting the county his insurance certificate. Before you start looking.
yeah, he's supposed to have all that.
All right.
Before he ever gets
All right.
started, so. And we got the. Deal for the backhoe for the Drummond dump. It's lost somewhere between Denver and Spokane. That the main frame for the backhoe.
Huh?
It's between Denver and Spokane somewhere.
Huh.
And maybe we'll get that this week, then we get it put together.
Just having Rick do that,
Yeah. And we got the hydraulics compactor put back together and working.
did they get the burn permit?
Not yet. We're still waiting on the publication. They put it supposed to run it for a couple of weeks straight, and they ran it for a week, didn't run it for a week, and then now they put it back in for a week. Then we gotta get that notice back before we can get them.
Yeah, it's covering that, it's just icy.
Yeah. Just putting sand down. But all there is to do.
No, it's pretty hot anyway, it's going into it, I think. I'll go up there.
There's not much snow anywhere yet.
It's blowing.
Yeah. Russ called me from Black Pine again yesterday and. Because they plowed the bus route and didn't plow him all the way up to Black Pine, I just told him, we're not gonna plow it every single time. When there's this much snow, we're just not gonna do it. And. But anyway, he was fine with that, he was just wondering if we forgot about it. We just can't plow them every single time, there's a bunch of snow,
Little tiny bit.
no,
As long as it's left that he could get through, right?
right, well, I mean,
It's
there's.
not like he's stuck.
No, that whole road's packed down from hunters anyway, but, I mean, it's 100% passed. I just let them know we're just not gonna go every time there's,
So have you
Dust.
plowed it at all yet?
Oh, yeah.
Up to where we were agreed to plow it.
yeah.
Did you ever hear back from that lady up here?
guy there that was with the rocks up red line, he was gonna go up this weekend and put mark them, so
Yeah, it got marked. Yeah,
did it.
with the tall orange poles. Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Did he send you a picture?
yeah, I sent a picture. I'll,
This is what we have it.
yeah, I'll send it to Billy.
That's good. Guys have anything else? Like, anything?
If nothing else, we can go off, turn it off for a minute.
What's that?
Personal? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. That's okay, he's got a personal thing, so we can close it for personal. Any public comment on solid waste or road? There is nothing.
No.
That's it then.
Alrighty, I'll see you later. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
That's. Did that reflected stuff on it too, or we?
Looks good, just looks like they got fun together.
It's, August.
Right, well, we'll go into the Brandon Terrace Dam Tenders Report, Georgetown Lake. It's 60.
Oh, it came up a little bit. Having it.
Came up. That's good.
So I guess I'm gonna go with 10, so. Be my motion.
So looking at it,
Oh, yeah.
question long term, I mean, if it's coming up, how much is it coming up? Is that good?
About a half inch.
Half an inch? And we were having it at 10 and it came up
Yeah.
half an inch.
So the inflow is a little more than the outflow,
Okay,
so we're doing good. We want to keep that going, and then if it starts coming up a little bit more, then we can find out.
But looking at the graph, it looked like, there was some warm weather. I think we got some melt, and that was a half inch. Well, there, because then it got cold and then it leveled off again.
so keeping it at 10 seems to be okay, and it's coming up for now.
I think.
Okay,
And then he sent in, Brandon sent in a dam inspection report. The dam was let open by Paul Thorne twice in a week and a half for the maintenance on electrical back there. Also went into fall exercise, real bells indicated no issues and no out of the ordinary leak. He passes on to the commissioners. If you guys have any questions, give them a call. I guess we need to know how that.
Yeah,
If he did the piezometer work, because I'm not sure if he did.
well. It's not checked off on the list there, on the sheet. But however, Billy has that. Email that said, that indicates that it was checked.
Should we call him?
Um,
I think we need to call him so we can clarify this, because if it's not, if we need to make a mark on here, or put that, make sure to put the email in the book too, or that we have us work. His numbers. Ready, 406. 533. 5895. That way, we can for sure what's going on.
Please dial a 1 when dialing this number.
Yeah, I have to do 1406 on
okay,
everything now.
1, 5, 3, 3,
Or you have to do 40.
5, 3, whoops. Clear, sorry. 14065
333 5895.
5895.
Hello,
Hey Brendan, this is the Granite County Commissioners.
hello.
Hey, on that, November 17th, did you get the presumpters read?
Yeah, I did, and there was nothing in there.
Okay, is there some way that we can make sure that you take a picture of that, just so we have it on file for the first?
Sure,
And then that way, cause on the, cause see, when we get them inspection sheets that you send in, they say no on the piezometer checking, but we have to have proof that we're doing it. Otherwise they'll come, they're really watching that.
okay. Yeah, I can get a picture and that way we can get that taken care of.
Okay, yeah, and if you could do it again, that way then we get some good pictures and make sure and send it in to them, please.
Okay,
Alrighty, thank you very much. That's all I have.
yep, you're welcome.
Anything else on the dam?
Just what I reported, you know, they were been working on it, so they let one of the gates open. So
Did,
Paul called and told me all that, so.
okay, did they, have you happened to notice if Blackfoot fixed all that stuff?
What was the question again?
Have you happened to notice if Blackfoot fixed all that stuff, the fence and then that other linkage?
You know, not to my knowledge, I didn't notice anything that work had gone on or nothing, so.
Okay, yeah, if you could check on that just for me, or I can have Paul stop by. Yeah, just have you check on it, that way we can get that done before, cause that was part of the inspection complete. Alrighty, well, thank you, have a good day.
All right, you too. All right.
That's good on the pictures, I think, that's good.
Yeah, that'll help us too, it's on motion, do I have a second?
I second.
Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, motion carried, passes,
Oh, and a date stamp photo would be good, if you could get that app, that would be great, I think it's a free app.
Okay,
maybe if you guys, I don't know.
Yeah.
if it is, pass it
Show him how to
on.
do it.
He
He's
has-
got a Android phone or a,
I guess, whatever, it is, just.
yeah.
again, Android.
Is Linda joining us today?
Yes.
Or a couple minutes early, but we'll go ahead into the lot to submit. Owner site inspection form, work discussion decision.
This is just the LOT, the letter of transmittal, that has to accompany the owner's site inspection that was completed a couple weeks ago with Jonathan. We just have to have that letter of transmittal in order to be able to upload it into the e-library. Yeah.
Okay, I entertain a motion on this.
It's a free app.
The lot to submit this one, Jim. That's the one that Chuck knows that they're at. That one right there.
Oh, okay. I second. Who made a motion? Made a motion?
Yeah,
It's just you
Somebody making.
for the,
I'll make a motion to submit the owner's site inspection report form to for.
I'll second it.
Any public comment on this? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried to pass. I signed it. And Healthy Granite County Network isn't coming in for that letter of support. They looked into it and it's not as what, there's a bunch of other stuff to it.
Oh, they're not gonna,
There's, you
Request
might
letter.
do it. She's got.
She said, Kayla called yesterday afternoon and they were going to apply for the CTC grant and she said after reviewing it further. They just don't have the manpower to be able to implement that grant fully if they were to be awarded it. So they've decided to hold off.
That, that the pathway.
Butte Cares has
Butte
gone
Cares.
after it, yeah.
yeah.
I would just wait till 10 o'clock. I don't know. I'm sure we go over this. Got a few days, so.
There is a free Android app that photo stamps or date stamps photos, so
What?
there's a free app for Android phones that'll date
Oh.
stamp photos, so Billy has it.
I'm gonna text it.
Yeah, that's.
Them pegs look pretty good as long as you can keep them clean, they don't get knocked over. I mean, I guess that's the only thing I worry about on that road.
He's not gonna be up there much this winter, but the Snowmobile Club keeps us updated when things happen. But
Maybe next spring or whatever that we were moved out of it or what?
he'll have to do a encroachment permit application. I said there's no guarantee you're gonna allow rocks in the driveway, so.
Well,
Which,
yeah,
yeah.
running down the road.
Yeah, so he needs to do the encroachment thing. He's gonna get that filed right away, so you guys can be considering it. But he thinks he's being nitpicked a little bit, but I don't think that's nitpicking him at all. I mean,
That will make somebody.
Yeah. You might put that in the minutes too, that Robert Fuss got those markers up.
Yes, I got it. Mhm.
Farmers will be happy.
Yeah, they will. Thank you.
So Billy, what's the phone number here?
The conference line is for, or this one that they can leave messages on.
I think this is for Mako. They want, my work. phone number.
Do this one so they can leave voice messages. It's 406-859-7023.
7023.
That way there, 'cause that one doesn't have a voicemail that picks up.
Wonder if you even need that line anymore.
It's nice to have it for a conference line if
Yeah,
people
true.
call in.
Yeah, sure.
And it's nice that I'm up here now, because if people do call it, I answer it, because sometimes like people call it, like, I've been calling and it just rings.
Yeah.
We go off from it.
Yeah. Often guys leave.
Well, I was very glad I just want.
Where do I go to sign him up?
And they usually just have a board thing on the Mako stuff, and when I get hard rock, you just check the box and sign your name, and then they notify, they see if they'll even let you in on it.
So on their website, you can go on.
Chantel sent a thing, it says your last chance was yesterday.
Did you give that to Vic? Oh, you did?
And then the commissioner's website. Sorry.
How are you, Linda?
Oh, good.
Don't see you sleep yet.
Yeah.
Road's a little nasty coming down.
No, no worse than yesterday.
Yeah,
But I
and they
see
were,
they had a big slide,
all they did,
big rock dump right where they work.
there's a huge one they left there too. That whole deal was,
Is that one come down?
I don't know.
that one will take out the road, won't it?
Look, I
Well, I don't know why they didn't get that big one.
Well, it looks to me, I don't see what good they did.
I
That-
can't tell what-
Yeah, are you on the record right now? Well, I guess we can say it. I mean, that whole deal was, didn't do the job they were supposed to have
I
done.
don't think, that's not what they explained. And I mean, they just made it now, just down to the.
Yeah, but
Or just adding up. I don't know. I
it's to act like they're doing stuff, and I think, I mean, just a show deal.
Something that was waste of much money.
They want funds to hire someone to watch over it instead of each county doing it, is that?
I guess that state side, we don't have nothing to do with it.
The
Georgetown.
the grade. There's a big section there with a crack in it that's about to come down. They didn't even touch it. I
I
mean,
guess I don't think. All righty,
Street.
it's 10 o'clock, we'll go ahead and move on to the. Preliminary plat approval, FTK subdivision, discussing this. If they want to come up. That would be.
So you should have received both the developers and the fire departments. Choices, that's the fire departments. This is, and you should have gotten one, yeah, that's the developer. So the developer essentially is saying that they would like to. They're good with most of the covenants that are in there, however, they would like to take out. This is in your findings now, so where you're actually got your conditions listed.
Where's this at?
It's on page 12 of 13 of the findings.
in your book.
Oh, so this one, and I can make copies of this real quick.
it's in your packet.
Yeah, it should
Yeah,
be,
it
yep,
should be
that's
that.
it.
What's the page?
It's a loose thing in your packet. Yep, and it should. Yeah, have it.
Starts off the top utilities.
Yeah, so so essentially we're under fire protection. They are fine with number 10. This is the developer now. The developer is asking for number 10, it's fine. Strike 11, leave 12 and 13. But with 12, they would wipe out that second sentence about berm. And then,
On which number?
so on 12, they want, this is the developer, they want the second
Okay, I
sentence
see.
eliminated about berms.
Yeah.
And then 13 would stay. And 14 would go and 15 would stay. That's their option. The fire department is saying, you know, putting, and then wait, let me back up, because the developer then would also add in a couple of conditions that say that, the fire, that the, let me find it here. Well, they would add in one that says this subdivision and its property owner shall expressly waive and be exempt from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service Area fire protection standards. That's one of theirs they're requesting to add. Private lot and homeowners shall use the standards set forth in the Georgetown Fire Protection Standards as recommendations and guidelines. And then all buildings with living quarters must install and maintain an interior fire sprinkler system. And then existing buildings with fire sprinkler system in place must provide evidence to the fire department on an annual basis. So that's what they would like to do. Now, the fire department has responded, and they're essentially, their position is, well, putting in a fire sprinkler doesn't actually exempt you out of, they don't really believe that the subdivision should be exempted in its totality from the fire department regulations. And that, putting in the fire sprinkler system doesn't exempt them from putting in the fire water supply, and they still would like the fire water supply. So there's a couple of things, I guess, on, you know, right now we're talking about mitigation for a variance, for the steepness of the road variance. So I don't, and this is my opinion, Blaine can certainly weigh in here, but I don't think that you can expressly waive and exempt them from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service Area Fire Protection Standards. I think that would be a secondary variance, which hasn't been noticed and hasn't had a public.
Yeah, agreed. I wanted to comment on one of the, I think, conditions talked about, well, I think there's potentially gonna be a, basically a notice on the plat that would say, under certain weather conditions, they may not have, services down there. I think it should say, very likely will not have services. I don't think it's may at all there.
Okay. Yeah, we have it written as property owners are put on notice that all services, including ambulance, police, fire, propane, wildfire services within the area are limited and at times may be unavailable due to weather events, wildfire events, or other conditions.
I would say, and but particularly in the winter, it would be very likely not.
Will be.
So you
Yeah.
want a will there. Okay, that's an easy enough change. So I don't know how you want to do this, if you want to hear from each of them. But yeah, that's essentially what we're down to, is the fire department is, and I'm kind of trying to whittle this down to a nutshell, but the fire department is saying, sprinklers are a mitigation for the steepness of the road, not a replacement for the entire water system that's supposed to be available. So, and they're saying, well, no, we would like to just be exempt from everything dealing with wildfire, which I don't know that you can really do that. I mean, part of the statutory requirements for subdivisions is that you're supposed to weigh in on public health and safety and take into consideration. And we've always taken into consideration what the fire department has said and gone with what they feel like is their best option. The fire department, of course, would still not like to see the variance granted over 10%, but I mean, there's no way to allow the subdivision. I am of the opinion that the variance should be granted, but there does have to be mitigation for the variance, and that's what we're down to, is what's the mitigation for the variance.
Okay, question.
Go ahead, Glenn.
They're saying, they do not want to put cisterns in at all. No
Right.
water.
No one.
So they are saying that their water well that their sprinkler system would put out a fire.
That's what they're.
And so that when the fire department did come, if it was a raging fire, they wouldn't be able to put it out anyway because there's no water. I don't agree on that. I'm sorry. I think there's gotta be a cistern. I don't think a sprinkler will pull up enough water to put a raging fire out.
Do you want me to kind of have some color to where it stands?
Just a second.
Just a second, Chuck, just a second. Wait a minute.
I
Well,
mean,
I
we're
think
discussing
it
it now.
depends on the output of the well. I mean, if you had 30 gallons a minute, I mean, or 40 or whatever you could pump out of the well. Fine, you had to probably the sprinkler system work. If you're getting 5 gallons a minute, they're gonna have to put in some sort of reservoir near the house. To satisfy that, to have a supply of water.
Yeah.
That would do it.
But it, yeah, I mean, the way I'm understanding it, it's like get rid of, get rid of this, get rid of that, not, and then just go to the sprinklers, well, that's what I wrote down, what does the county, when there's no stored water, do help out?
Well, yeah, another point too. Under wildfire protection, that is state protection. And nobody can tell me that the state can't get down there in the summer. I mean. I know they can, and they go way worse than that.
Getting down there, but if there's no water,
Well, they can bring water.
Issues of what you're saying, the issues the winter.
Hmm?
Issues the winter time, what you're saying.
Issue is
Yeah.
winter time, yeah. To me it is.
Or if there's like, yeah, I don't know how, what kind of material that is, if it brings that, if it get back, it's getting down there, it's always like getting back out.
Well, if you had, you could have a thunderstorm,
And then some of the flood we've had, or,
but
yeah, I mean, this is just stuff we have to bring up. And I guess I was kind of curious if they talked to the neighbors about setting up what, using those spots if they have what, might be able to put a tank there. They have or not. Yeah. One of the things.
Well, our stance is that, developing a stored water system on the site is unfeasible. The fact that the fire department is saying that they're not willing to drive the fire truck down the road at any point now, according to his letter, spring or good.
I guess I mean up above it in a second, maybe.
So if we put it's just not feasible to get a tank in the amount of space that we got to where it's accessible.
Even if the neighbors or you didn't talk to them.
Well, our stance is on that is that there's measures in the fire prevention plan for that to be an initiative on the fire department. I don't see there any sort of legal precedent that says a subdivider shall have to, if a source system doesn't work on their place, say that they have to go to another subdivision. Basically, I mean, if we want to come out and say it's really that what the fire department's trying to do is develop a community water system and then have us flip the bill, that they're not willing to come down the hill. What's the point of putting any sort of stored water up to the top if they're not willing to come down and service?
Well, I think putting them stored water on the top, we should hose it down and get the whole, then we should have stored water. That's all I'm concerned about. You're not gonna have any stored water.
Yeah, we'll have cisterns.
What'd you say, 5 to 7 gallons a minute?
Yeah, and we'll have cisterns after the wellhead, and that's drawn on there. We'll have stored water for irrigation, and it's drawn on there. I plan on having 15.
So are you against having a water supply, your own water supply down there?
No, it's right. That's what we'll have, which is,
What's that?
yeah, we'll have a 1,500 gallon cistern after the wellhead for stored water right there. Depending on, because we're just basing what we're gonna get for well production based off of other well log reports, and they're anywhere from 3 to 7 gallons per minute. We don't know what the recovery time or anything like that is gonna be for the specific wells that we drill. So we're planning on having stored water, at least for irrigation and kind of, we'll have a defensible space around the structure that will irrigate.
So that stored water could run that sprinkler system.
Yeah, so the stored water is actually running the sprinkler system too. But really where we're at for, to kind of add color to where our stance is for asking to be grandfathered in is that the fire department said that they're in more blatant ways than not, that they're not going to come down there and service any fires. They're not willing to take a fire engine down that road. And they reiterated this many times, so message loud and clear. What's the good of a stored water system if it's not gonna be used? So, our stance is a far better mitigation is fire sprinklers. And a fair and equitable type of exchange for us waiving the services of a fire department is that we might as well waive. As fair and equitable exchange, these as regulations, we're still adhering to them as recommendations and recommendations the same way Anaconda Deer Lodge, they just didn't adopt them as regulations. We're just saying, we'll adhere to them to the fullest extent that we possibly can. We're just saying, the fact that they're not gonna come and service the property, we should be able to say then, okay, we're gonna exempt ourselves from these regulations and be grandfathered in to the existing conditions that were in place at the time of this subdivision.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't feel, Linda, that you don't feel that they can expressly waive and be exempt from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service Area?
I don't think they can without a variance. I think they have to get a variance for that because that is in our subdivision regs
Yeah.
and you can't just
Yeah,
like
you
say,
can't
"No, we're not
We're
doing
not
that.
doing
You have to get a
Yeah,
variance.
I agree with that, and the liability exposure on that.
Yeah.
Alone. The issue, I understand you're saying you're talking about what you guys are gonna do, but commission's gotta look at what your grandkids are gonna do up there. And then that's the concern that I see.
Or if there is a fire and you're saying, okay, we waived this, so therefore. But it burned down, but it's your fault for not showing up, even if we did waive it. I mean, who knows? Gonna come back to you didn't come. Because we waived it, but you know what I mean? You can't. I don't think they can, when it's in subdivision regulations, waive and be exempt from. And like you said, it'd be a completely separate variance and they'd have to prove why they could. This, like you said, is a variance for the steep driveway grade, right? That's
It's
all
very
this is.
specific.
And the fire department, the Georgetown Lake Volunteer Fire Department is saying they don't like that grade. We need a variance, but I think you're correct, Linda, in stating that you need another variance on this being exempt from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service Area.
Well, and I guess just a couple clarification. I've had a lot of discussions with the fire department. I've never heard them say, we will not go down that road. I've heard them say, we don't want to go down that road. But I've also heard them say, no matter what, if there's a fire, we're gonna try to go down the road. So I've never heard them say, we aren't gonna go down the road. They've always said, we're gonna try to go down the road, but we don't really want to go down the road. The other thing is, yeah, with a variance, it's supposed to be very specific, which the road one is, but when you're blanket statementing out the whole set of regs, how do you even justify that? It's like, you've got to have specific areas, like you can't, that's never gonna get approved. I wouldn't think, because how do you justify how you're blanketing out an entire section of regulations as being unattainable? Oh, yeah, I mean, if we would have to, when we do these variances, we have to show that we feel like it is a true and justified variance.
Another issue there too is a variance can't be granted just on a financial hardship
Yeah.
as well. And so, yeah, that's why she's saying there, yeah, there's gotta be a finding or basis for it there.
Like,
But there is where you can do the variance on the road, but when it comes down
Right.
to the fire.
right now, we can say, well, yeah, the road, the subdivision, it's a parcel that was created. It has a narrow entrance off the road, there's no other way to access it. There's physical reasons why a variance can be granted for that driveway. But when you're saying no on-site water, no, I mean, there's a lot more than just on-site water in the fire regs, and when you're saying none of that applies, well, now you gotta justify why none of that would be able to be attained.
And I guess that'd be coming back down to justifying here or in court. Because when something happens, then we will be in court trying to justify what the hell we, or what.
I have one more question. Why did planning board approve this when clearly it didn't meet standards of the Georgetown Lake Volunteer Fire Department?
Why did they approve the
Approved
subdivision?
subdivision.
They felt the mitigations offered were sufficient to allow the subdivision to go forward
And-
with the variance and the mitigation.
Okay, and the mitigation is the steep driveway.
Well, the mitigations are the fire, the 10,000 gallons on stored water, the standpipe going down, the hydrant at the bottom. So all of those other things are mitigation as well.
I see there was 4-2, and then it was,
Yep, it was a split vote. 2 of them voted no.
but I was trying to find their comments on like what the two had to say. Did they do it on just the road, or did they do it on the fire thing? Or did they even look into the fire variance?
Oh, yeah.
Just,
They, so let me get you to where they kind of talk about that.
I looked at it, but I couldn't find remarks on what they. Why they went, was they just going for the road, or did they actually think about into the whole system? That's what I was trying to do. I hadn't really looked at it. This is a bad deal.
So
I guess this is where I was.
the planning board, it's in the findings, but the planning board essentially. So in the findings, it says Tom Rue and John Spake, who were the 2 that voted no. Both stated they believe the original design was flawed. And the county shouldn't grant another division onto an already flawed design. And additional mitigations were discussed, but they felt that, given the nature of the lot and where it sits, that they did not feel like a split should be granted.
I guess that's where I was coming off on that subdivision where the 15 conditions and 1 variance. So that's why I was asking, that 1 variance, was that just the road? Cause really this comes to the 2.
Right, the 1 variance is just the road. That's all that they've requested. That's all. I mean,
That's what I was trying to figure out when I read this. is
Yeah.
That they didn't look really in, I mean, they looked into this other, but they haven't come to the.
they haven't done a variance for this secondary request to exempt from all the regulations. And yeah, and the thing is that usually when subdivisions go to court and the county initially first loses, it's because we didn't follow our process and we didn't notice the variances, we didn't have the public hearing on the variances. So it's like, in my opinion, this requires a variance, and so if this is really the way that we're gonna go forward, that they wanna go forward, it has to back up and get a variance, and we have to advertise it, notice it, and do the whole.
So does that mean it goes
too,
back
so-
to the planning board then?
It's
For-
supposed to go back to the planning board for the variance, correct?
Commissioner Adler, he's got a comment.
Can it, the intent of that was not to create a whole nother variance. Really, what I was going off of is the last fire department's letter last meeting. So I was just trying to reiterate a request of them asking us to waive that. It was just merely, that's the interpretation of what I thought the fire department was asking. I'm not proposing a whole new variance.
Well, when you're taking all that other stuff out, see, then that makes it opens the doors up to me. That's the way I feel, that when you want this out, that out. All this
Do
other
we have
stuff.
the old letter? I mean, really, I'm just going off of a comment from what I thought I was trying, the intent was to satisfy a request made by the fire department.
I
But
think,
then when you read this, though, did you read that about what they were saying?
So it really,
Planning board, I guess that's what really hit me, because then they throw it back on them. Into us as a 1 variance is shown in this report, and that's what I was trying to.
yeah, I mean, we
It
can,
don't,
we can strike that as a request. It's not, the intention is not to,
We
ask
asked
for.
right what they're recommending.
No, he's saying
Oh,
what he requested
Yeah,
there.
I mean, that wasn't the intent. I mean, I definitely didn't ask for a variance. What I'm trying to do is add all of the, Granite County required covenants, and that was in the last letter in the last meeting, that I'm just trying to get into these covenants, and it was proposed and brought up by the fire department.
Okay, my understanding of the last meeting is that the Georgetown Lake Volunteer Fire Department, they didn't approve because of the cistern and all this, that's not in there. But this variance, according to the planning board, is just for the road. And with Linda saying that there's gonna have to be another variance to waive and be exempt from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service area, that makes perfect sense to me.
We're not supposed to.
And we got into this discussion, the last meeting was because the fire department, they wanted to work out a plan where you would put your water there, where they could try to get down there and have water to get down there and put the fire on. Is what they wanted. And so then all this sprinkler system and everything got included into this variance that's just for the steep driveway.
Well,
That's the
they're
whole
planning
deal
on
that I took, that I think we jumped ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
and we jumped trying to make something work and everybody work together. And going back and reading all this now, it's just the variance, it's just, yeah, for the road, nothing to do with water.
And understandably, I'm gonna go on what our county planner recommends because she's the expert on this situation. And I would say if we could give a variance for this steep driveway grade today, that would be fine, but would we want to do variances approvable when they were both here, or could we do the variance on the driveway and then do the variance on the water?
Well, what I'm hearing them say is they don't want to seek a variance, a secondary
No,
variance.
that's not the intent.
That wasn't their intent.
Intent was to reiterate what was in the
Okay,
letters.
But I think one thing that Linda's saying is they're asking for the variance on the road. But you're trying to mitigate these issues with the water, so that's still on the table. You talked to them about the talking to the neighbors as well as the issue of the sprinkler. And so they brought up the issue of the sprinkler. But the way I recall that meeting last time, I think you guys agreed to go talk to the neighbors is the way I thought it was.
Can't think of your name, I'm sorry. Mine's sorry. Yeah.
No, we did. We
did
did nothing for that. I don't think that's.
Well, okay, but the commission, I think you guys said that they needed to as part of the mitigation.
Well,
Is that
everyone
correct,
brought it up
Linda?
about that little piece of gravel
Yeah.
on top of it, and well, somebody brought it up, if there was a chunk here and there that it's not feasible for the neighborhood to use, that they might be able to use for something like that, right? That's what I remember, and that's why I asked you, in my note, to make sure you talk to the neighbors, I mean, we gotta go through every fact.
Right, and my question to that is, there's nothing in subdivision law that says that during a subdivision that you have to go ask other subdivisions to put.
I didn't say that, I didn't, we was trying to make this work, we was hoping. you would
Right,
talk
so
to them,
what
see
I'm-
if we could.
what I'm
See, you're
saying is-
arguing with me over it.
That was just part of the mitigation process is
Yeah.
why you guys.
But you're contradicting yourself right now. You're saying it doesn't say in subdivision regulations that we have to go ask our neighbors about. But you're also saying, I want to be exempt from the Georgetown Lake Fire Service area when that is expressly in the subdivision regs.
Subdivision laws.
Yeah.
MCA law.
Yeah.
Subdivision law.
I-
You can't force a sub.
We're not trying to say,
We're not supposed
we're just trying to do
Right,
the
so that's what I'm
correct thing.
Reason we didn't go approach that is because I think that's
not-
that's not the law. You don't, they're not, the
But-
subdivider isn't required
We
to
didn't
go.
say it was a law, we were just trying to.
Trying to do it
make
part of the
stuff so we can
mitigation.
all trying to make this work, so we didn't get into this big conflict, now it's getting back to the point now, is you want this done out.
Yeah, we've
And then
moved
to
on.
give something, then to give something back, it's, you're like, no.
Cause last meeting, we moved on from cisterns being.
But we didn't read about this, I mean, once you break it down and start reading it, you read about, did you know, why didn't you bring that up then, if you read this about the variances on the road, why did we start talking about water?
Well, because it was the mitigation point. Yeah, it was fine.
But
about
he
that.
just keeps saying that, no.
Yeah, I'd rather move on from the cistern because it's not a feasible option. We can't agree that we can get a hydrant close, our design meets the parameters that are stated in the regulations. And the fact the fire department is saying, well, we're not gonna drive our truck down there. That makes that option an unfeasible option. And so what they keep proposing, it isn't the first time that it's been brought up. 2 years ago, we discussed and made as many attempts as we could to explain why a cistern up close to the road doesn't work. It's not feasible. So here we are back to it again. We've already crossed that path in several of the meetings prior to even the planning, it's in engineering, it doesn't work. There's not enough room up there. So can't get a cistern out to the road, but they keep asking. So,
Okay, but then back to the, I didn't even cut you off, sorry, then back to where you said it's a 7 gallons or whatever, you figure 5 to 7, here it says the flow is between 15 to 25 gallons, is what they're at.
yeah, that's a lot of cistern.
Huh?
Really all, well,
I mean, I'm just read what you gave me, or gave us, I mean,
yeah, so there'll be a cistern, we'll be able to provide that flow. What I'm saying is that because we can't, that there's no feasible way that we can develop a stored water system. In regulations themselves, it gives alternatives for what you can do to, for other solutions. Basically, we're proposing the other 2 options. We're proposing that because we can't develop a stored water system that's viable on this piece of property, we're proposing that we do sprinkler systems. And written in the regulations, it specifically says that the authority having jurisdiction can approve this as an alternate method of fire prevention planning. The other method is to offer cash in lieu of. And the cash in lieu of regulation in there states that it's $1 per gallon required in cash in lieu. Our neighbors, obviously, Linda said in our last meeting, on our on-site meeting, that the neighbors that have already subdivided and split their lot, same thing we're doing, did a cash in lieu payment. Like, so where that money is at, I don't know, but we can add to that. So there's 2 options that we still have on the table that will keep the regulations in effect. And we're just asking, we're proposing to the authority having jurisdiction, which is you guys. Here are 2 options that we're willing to do because stored water systems aren't working. They're not feasible.
Well, and let me just cover a couple of things. So in the fire department letter that was referenced, it says if the subdivision is approved with non-compliant access, so they're specifically talking about the variance with the road access. The following stipulations, mitigation measures should be considered. If you approve this subdivision with non-compliant access and no further mitigation, we would request that you expressly waive the elements of adopted Georgetown Lake Fire Service area that will be impossible to meet as a result, including the required fire flow. So that's them, the fire department saying, if you give the variance on the road and you do nothing else, then we're not exempting him from we're exempting them from being able to service in a certain way. So we're not exempting the developer, we're exempting the fire department from having to provide a certain level of service that they just can't because of the subdivision. That's not a variance because that's not us giving the developer a variance. That's just acknowledging that there's, because of this variance, there's certain aspects the fire department will not be able to meet. That would be then accomplished by us writing into the covenants. These are sections of the fire department regulations that are not going to be able to be potentially met by the fire department because of the steep access road. So that's on that end. So that point. You know, on lookout one where the fire department accepted cash. Lookout, if you've been up there, lookout one has, the two houses are practically sitting right next to each other, right, I mean, right on top of each other. And they do not have to leave the road to reach those two houses. They are very close to the road and they're right on the top of there. This is why we always say each subdivision we look at individually. We don't set precedents by doing stuff, because this one is down the slope from that one. This is a whole different set of circumstances. Obviously, we didn't, give any kind of variances to the one on top because it didn't need any variances. So, I mean, yes, they did get cash in lieu, and we always left it up to the fire department to say, this is really what our critical need right now is for the area. And for this one, they're saying our critical need for the area is water. I don't know if it's been explored that it's completely unfeasible to do. I don't know. It seems like both parties are kind of waiting for a decision to be made. Then kind of the exploration process needs to start as to whether or not it truly will be feasible to get the water. The fire department's position is, again, we want the stored water and we want it within 10 feet of the road. That's their position. So,
Okay, so what you're saying then, that this variance is exempting the fire department for the road.
this variance, if the fire department is saying, if you do no other mitigation than what you have already, what the planning board has given you,
Yes.
then yes, they would like exemption from certain, they would like notice put into the covenants that there are certain aspects of their regulations that they will not be able to comply with.
And here's another question. Did they bring us the mitigation requirements that we asked them to? How did you do that? By saying you're exempt from the subdivision? From the Georgetown Lake Fire District? You can't do that. That's another variance, right?
Yeah, let's get off of that.
Yeah, so they've taken that off the table. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna remove that request altogether. They'll be subject to the fire department regulations. And they're saying, well, we want to mitigate, or we want to have our mitigation not be cisterns, but sprinkler systems.
Yeah.
We have always said in the county that we won't do sprinkler systems because, yeah, and I mean, there's a pretty good law case through Lewis and Clark County that said you can't require sprinkler systems. The county can't ask for a sprinkler system because we don't have a building inspector. So we have nobody to inspect that it goes in and nobody to inspect that it continues.
But here, they brought it up first. That was
They're
the fact.
requesting it as part
Yeah.
of their mitigation. The fire department is saying that is a mitigation, however, we still would like the water up on top. If you look in the information, even that. Sorry, I got it. The information that was provided. There was a lot of good information on sprinkler systems within this, but it says it even in here, gotta find the right page here. That where they've been doing these, that fire departments have to use more water to fight the fires. It goes on, talks about how if they don't have to use as much, if there's a sprinkler system, it's usually a mop-up situation. And that. Sorry. Specific guy that how they have here. So they've proactively asked, so they have like a whole discussion of where sprinkler systems made sense to do and that they were granted variances from certain aspects of the subdivision regulations in other areas. Like with the 60 house development on a steep hillside, the developer was allowed to eliminate one of the development entrance roads. So it's not like there's no water on site at all for the fire department. It's just like, well, you know, they're gonna space fire hydrants wider if they sprinkle, so sprinkling was an additional mitigation that in this case, the developer offered in order to eliminate other aspects of the fire department requirements. But on this one, the fire department is pretty adamant that they want the water. So that's kind of where we're at. The developer is offering sprinklers only, and the fire department is saying, sprinklers are fine and we recommend you have them, but we want the water. And we want it within 10 feet of the road.
And sprinklers only with the 1,500 gallon cistern at the down lower.
They're just, yeah, I don't know what your sprinkler systems, the sprinkler systems would have to meet the state requirements, whatever they are.
Exactly. The national, by the national guidelines. The sprinkler systems will be designed according to the National Fire Protection Agency guidelines.
Can I add a little bit of something to that? So I just want to make it clear too, that we're not saying. We are saying, you know, that we want. The reason that we're saying that these systems don't work isn't only because the fire department is possibly not going to use them. There's more to that than just that. It's where they want them, it's how close they want them to the road, which then goes in our driveway. It's the possibility of them not even being able to be buried 6 feet deep in solid rock. This wasn't a tit for tat, like, we're not gonna do that, but we'll do this. This was we left this meeting and at the end, it was like, what's our solution? Our solution was, we can't bury cisterns up there because of the last two letters, which really hold us, and it's in the very last statement. A stipulation for the subdivision is that compliance with requirements, standards, and terms of mitigation as approved by Georgetown Lake Fire Department is required for final plat approval. So if we leave here and we say this, that, or the other thing, and this comes down to we final record, and they come back with the same letters that say, we don't agree, reference our previous letter, where does that leave us? With two cisterns we can't fully bury, sitting on the property, that was our mitigation, that was our reasoning behind it. We could probably ask for it, I don't know how fast 10,000 gallons goes away. But if we start looking into, okay, then you gotta go to the lake, you gotta fill it up, you gotta bring it back up. So how long does 10,000 gallons last us? Right out of the gate, let's say we bury them. Let's say for some reason, I mean, it's not gonna happen, we're not gonna get them buried up there, they're too big, it's too big of an area. I don't know how long that 10,000 gallons lasts us, but then we're back at square one, it's like they're not there. So it's a huge expense for us, and it's not feasible for us, and that was why we came up with fire suppression systems.
Well, I agree. I don't think there's enough room to bury the tanks there. However, they could refill, if you were using the 10,000, they could be up there refilling with water tankers.
True.
So, I mean, it would last longer than 10,000 gallons.
Well, that would be broke into it, yeah.
But I don't think it's feasible to put them in there. I don't.
And yeah, and so, you know, when to reiterate what Russ said, when he added that into our response, our understanding was that the fire department, like Linda had said, bear with me here, sorry. I think maybe we missed one word in our statement and it was elements. Right, we said will be exempt. And maybe it should have said exempt from these elements. You know, obviously, we're gonna do every other mitigation. We don't want our house to burn down. We don't want to burn the neighbor's house down. We also are sitting in the only spot that has any fire mitigation done on the whole backside of the lake between us and the neighbor below us. So we've done a lot of mitigation, and we're not saying that, we're just simply stating that one doesn't work. So if we're gonna scratch these other new ones that came up Sunday afternoon, let's scratch the cistern. I'm not asking for any variance. That's all I had.
Well, we pumped 250 gallons a minute. usually on a structure fire. That's what we train for. Math would tell us how quickly that 10,000 would go away. Our first engine in carries 1,000 gallons, so it's gonna be depleted in 4 minutes. Yeah, fire departments rarely have enough water. It's hard to establish that. But, you know, we seem to, let me say, we can recognize that they are on a rocky outcrop. And a tank on their site may not be feasible. But nowadays, I mean, we demolish nuclear power plants. It just takes a little longer. There's been no attempt to contact a neighbor. None. And our preliminary search indicates that there is parkland above and across the road from their entrance. So that might be viable. It might be a viable site. But I mean, if I was a neighbor and I had this question come before me, I would entertain the cistern because it would be in my best interest also. The fact that the other two lots did not have to put in a system is not saying anything. It's just that maybe our standards were not set at that time. It was right at that transition. So, you know, our fear is that we have standards been in place for 5 years. It's sad that they're being challenged now. We've got a difficult lot. I understand that. You do too. But it seems like we feel like we've got to dig our heels in, or the next lot down the road is going to be in here again. So we're in a sense setting a precedent. And it should be a good one that we have to live with, whether it's legal or not.
Question, was the neighbors not asked? Did you go to the neighbors?
Your stance is we feel it's a legal responsibility of us as developers.
My take on, I think why we asked that was just because we're trying to make something.
Yeah.
work, and it was an option, just if it was somewhere that you could start. I guess
I'd
that's
be willing to give cash in lieu of and have, it's the fire department's initiative to, if that's their initiative to put community water up there, then that's on them. It's not in the legal realm of a subdivider to go find on another subdivision or another piece of land spot to put, they get strong armed into putting community water for someone else's service when they say they're not going to use it on place. Our stance is that we're not legally required to do that. We appreciate it. We understand the need for it. We could be more than willing to give cash to support those efforts. But we are standing by our rights and saying that that's not a legal responsibility of us in this instance.
I don't think we were saying it was illegal. We were just trying to make something work. And God noted that we did not say it was a legal thing to go do it.
But you guys can require the cistern, so it is it is something that you guys can require. There's my.
You can require the cistern go in, and you can require. Are you willing to do cash in lieu plus the sprinkler systems?
That's it, I guess.
Are they willing to do cash in lieu for water and sprinkler systems?
How can you have a cash in lieu? I mean, either you don't have the protection, or you don't, I mean, so you're buying your way out.
That's what, that's why I was wondering.
Well, you could put.
That's kind of true.
Yeah, you could put the cash in lieu and,
What's
well, they have the requirement, they usually put it towards water tenders, things like that. But you could specifically earmark this to find an area to put water up there. I mean, I think everybody is agreed. And now we're not gonna talk about the subdivision for just a second, but there's a lot of houses up there, and Kurt was saying there's about 100 structures that are that this little water system, if they could get something on that site and the fire department beyond the 10,000 could develop out 30,000 pounds of water, you're talking about water now that's protecting up to 100 structures in an area that's getting built out, just is the way it is. I mean, so it's just whether the fire department is willing to go do that search at this point and take on that project.
Doesn't sound like that's potentially agreeable though, the caching
Yeah.
plus the sprinkler or.
Well, the point would be,
Something
if we put it somewhere else, it doesn't protect us.
But I disagree with that 100%. The fire department has never said that they aren't going to take a line down to your house. Never, not once. I've never heard them say that. They have said that they would try to get down there. They would try to access the water. If the cistern's lower, they're gonna try to get down to that fire. And I think that's unfair to the fire department to say they're not gonna go, and that they've said they're not gonna go. Nowhere have they said they're not gonna go.
So what happens if the fire starts at Red Lion and the fire department can't get up there because it's a snowmobile track?
Yeah, it's not even in their fire chest.
It's not a subdivision. It's loss of building and maybe lives. And I don't see anybody saying, well,
Yes,
we can plow that road.
but on the flip side of that, I can't say that I have always had a lot of spec people coming in on Red Lion. But in the last 2 or 3 years, have had a lot of people call specking on Red Lion saying, well, what would it take to subdivide up Red Lion? Well, you need to figure out how you're gonna get water and fire protection up there. And, you know, the state attorneys, the Mako state attorneys, all of those that deal with subdivision law, they have said that we should not allow subdivisions outside of fire districts at all. So, I mean, but yeah, most of the time when Red Lion people hear what the cost is gonna be to subdivide, I never hear back from them. I mean, I've never had a subdivision of Red Lion. Cause it's cash unfeasible to do.
My point is, I mean, you can't get to the structure. In this case, in the winter time, you can't get to the structure. In my mind, the structure's 2 of them. What's the difference?
But Red Lion is already an existing lot, so if you wanna build up there and take your risk, fine, this is an existing lot. You wanna build on it and take your risks, fine, you wanna subdivide it? That's a whole nother story. Now you're saying, we wanna we wanna double the risk on it. So that's where the rub comes in.
Well, and your duty to look at health and safety for this one, but
Comes in.
yeah, I do see your point there,
Yeah.
but it seems like it's unfair, but since it's a new subdivision.
Okay, so here's the thought. The volunteer fire department. If there was a cache put in, would you be willing to go out and find a place to put for a cistern and water? Would you talk to the neighbors and say, can we bury this? It's gonna help you and it's also gonna help this subdivision.
Most likely. Yes,
Then,
we're trying to
in
develop.
that situation, there would be no reason for the sprinklers. Because the cistern would be there and they'd be able to. You see what I mean?
Save the money on the.
Yeah, where if there's a spot, like you said, there's a park. That you can put a cistern in and it's buried and you can't see it and the water's there. Then that in itself would help the surrounding neighbors plus this subdivision.
So you're saying cash in lieu instead of.
But cash would
saving
have to
some
be
sprinkler.
going to the fire department, correct, to be able to put that in, find the spot and put that in. Well, how about that?
Can I just add one thing from the fire department side that's being missed here? Yes, there's stored water that's required. There's also a standpipe required. That goes from the road down to these 2 structures. That these developers will have to put in. That's how you get the water to their structures. And that's part of the mitigation of the steep roads. That standpipe's gotta go in. Or we can't get the water there.
And you're saying you can't put it in?
I mean, I can barely.
They've never talked about the standpipe
It's
today.
It's the.
So let's
it's
talk
the-
about it.
It's the
Yeah,
same.
We did talk about the
Yeah.
standpipe, we talked about the standpipe a bunch, and it's been brought up that it needs to be brought closer to the road. And then the most recent one changes that we want to get rid of. I believe in here, what is it, a max of 40 feet, is that the? Is that the new one, do you want to, we have beat this to death with the 10 feet from the paved road, which we've all come in, that we've beat a bunch that can't be done.
So
Then we added,
excuse me, let me ask you a question. Are you gonna put a standpipe in? From your structures down the hill, up to the road, so that we can pump water down to your structure? Yes or no?
just a pipe, just an empty pipe that's at the road that goes
That's
underground
part,
all the way
yeah,
down.
that's part of
No
the
system?
mitigation we're talking about for the steep road, is a standpipe.
It's a mitigation for the road. I'm not talking about stored water. Two
Just
separate
the
issues.
standpipe.
Yeah.
So
So
they're
the
saying,
distance between the hydrant referenced above and the standpipe inlet shall not exceed 40 feet.
Correct.
So you're saying the hydrant, which is where you receive the water out of, correct?
Correct.
Can only be 40 feet from the standpipe.
Correct.
So you want me to put 40 feet of pipe in from the edge of the road
no,
down 40 feet?
No, we want, let's take the cistern completely away.
Right.
It's not there.
Okay.
One mitigation, part of the water system, is we have to be able to pump water from Georgetown Lake Road to your structures. That requires a pipe.
Okay,
That has to be installed.
what kind of pipe?
just the
To our standpipe specifications, that we have to, it has to be buried, it has to have, you know, the two outlets close, physically close to your building envelopes. So that we can take hose down and nozzles down and fight fire.
And
We
this,
can pressurize that line and fight fire in your house.
so this pipe is buried, it comes to two units, both close to both of them. It wires together, comes up the hill and pops out of the ground at the road. And then you pump it from your truck right into the pipe. I don't think that's ever been an issue.
That's part of what we've always talked about is a standby. And now we gotta put water. Stored water close enough to that standpipe, so we have some stored water to start with. But this is mitigation for this steep road. We gotta get water down the hill, that's the way we get water down the hill.
so everybody, you guys agree, developers agree, fire department agrees, standpipe goes in.
Yeah, I don't think the standpipe's a big issue.
So the standpipes
I guess
at
maybe
least
there's
then,
a little miscommunication
Yeah.
there, but.
The pipe plus cash and loop.
it would, yeah, the standpipe goes with. The cash and lieu, or the cistern, one of the two.
And then they don't have to
So
worry
if it's not attached, then the fire department could possibly put in a tank someplace else, or on
Right.
this other parkland.
Right, cause this piece of this little piece of parkland is almost right across the road.
See, I think,
So they could run pipe over to the standpipe and then, or over to their truck and
I
then.
think that's what the whole big talk was about, talking to neighbors about having a storage tank up above by the road. I thought that's what we talked about. That's what I keep reading, trying to figure out when we talk, putting something even up above where they'd have stored water there.
You're exactly right, Scott.
I thought that's where.
We'd have a ready reserve. Yes, wherever that tank ends up being on whatever neighbor. That's where we'd set up our engine and we'd lay hose down to the standpipe that we're just talking about. So that boosts that distance down. That doesn't require us to skid down the mountain and not be able to get back out of there.
It'll be a lot
That's the
quicker
theory.
too to go get more water and then you'd have a truck sitting up above and or stored water with another truck, then you just move the one and go get. Dumping the line. Remember?
So mainly you're worried that you couldn't put water there. But now what we've come to is we probably can get water to it. In that, from a neighbor and bury it. All you need to do is get the pipe down there.
Two different things.
Yeah.
Exactly. The standpipe is to keep us from
Yeah.
sliding down the mountain in the middle of winter. And so it gets us preset.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have to take hoses down there and work from that standpipe, but we still. That's the mitigation for the road.
Okay,
We're still looking for that water supply.
yes,
And we hear that, well, our tract is so small, we can't put a tank in there, rock, depth, cover. We understand some of that.
Yeah.
These guys are dirt workers, they should know it the best. But we're just saying, have you inquired with any of the other landowners to start the same thing? And we would work with you on that.
okay, so,
And we're saying, we're happy to give you cash in lieu of. And you
To-
can go find the spot
find a spot,
for your tanks.
okay. And then I wouldn't think that you need sprinkler systems, right?
Correct.
So you could just
Right.
get rid of this. What do you
Which
think?
is,
Or unless you wanted to put
yeah,
sprinklers.
they could then put them in themselves,
you
but
could
we're
put
not
'em in, but
involved
they
in
wouldn't.
it at all
It
because,
would be a requirement.
yeah,
'cause
and we
can't-
don't have to
We
inspect
can't,
them.
yeah,
We're,
Yeah.
our liability on that end is.
yeah,
I'm gonna say that probably their faith in sprinkler systems will go away if they get a resolution here. Nobody wants sprinkler systems in freezing weather, and yet, yeah, the documents indicate that they're a wonderful thing. I personally believe that insurance companies are gonna start shying away from liabilities like these buildings that we have. And they're gonna be looking at sprinkler properties, so. It's, maybe we're too much ahead of the curve, I don't
so. Sorry,
go.
it sounds like we resolved this. Did we?
Yes.
Possibly.
I think so.
Yeah.
We don't talk too much.
Yeah.
Just listen. The only thing is that we're gonna be pumping into that pipe and probably there's an elevation of 40, 50 feet, so there's gonna be. Pressure rise. That pipe can't be just some irrigation pipe that's been thrown into a ditch. It needs to be engineered by Eli and Associates to handle the pressure that we're gonna impose on it.
Yeah, you just can't throw some.
Exactly.
chicken here, fine.
You know, and hydrants usually even have thrust blocks built in the event that there's a lot of pressure from slamming of valves, what have you. I'm not the engineer, don't wanna be.
It's what I do for a living in the city of Missoula. It's what I do.
There you go.
I install municipal water systems and hydrants. I'm very well aware of. I'm not thinking about slamming some SDR 35 and there was some glue and being like, good luck.
Yeah.
You know, but it is gonna be, you know, that's not a big issue to do that. But yeah, you know, if we do something like that.
So can we go to the conditions and maybe kind of iron it out here? So 10 we're not touching, so everything before 10 we're not touching. Okay, we're in the your findings, page 12, number 10.
What number?
Number 10, do you guys have a copy back there? Yeah. I have a couple, so here's some extras if you guys need. Okay, so number 10, we don't have a problem with. We're gonna skip 11 just for a second. Number 12. I heard last time that the commission doesn't want the berms. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we will strike that second sentence. Nobody wanted them, fire department.
But you wanted you wanted rails?
No.
No, okay, you weren't wanting, okay.
Making the bomb sled run.
So we just wanted to say if a variance for driveway grades has been granted, the developer will install roads to the specs as submitted in the preliminary plan, right? Okay, so that one's gone. That one's 12 is done. 13, we're changing the word may to will. And that one should be completed, correct?
We're doing what?
We're in the bold where it says within this area are limited and at times may, we're gonna change that to will.
Okay,
So, and then we're gonna skip 14 for a second. And then 15 is fine with everybody. So let's go back up to 11. So we would. We're gonna say the developer will. We're gonna can't cross out the 5,000 gallon cisterns and put in. Give cash in lieu. Of 10,000. To the Georgetown Fire Department.
Everybody agreeing on this stuff?
I'm listening to,
Yeah.
I'm already gelling a thought,
Yeah,
yes, our
okay.
document states $1 per gallon. But it's also gotta be corrected with the CPI. We realize that we've just come through quite an inflation run. So I'm gonna bite my tongue when I hear just $10,000. We're backing off of this
I
thing.
don't mind much.
Okay,
10,000 doesn't do much.
Thank you, I agree.
but we'll just give it give it generalized, and then we can go back. So granted to the fire department. Does the commission want to say for the use of finding a location for cisterns in that area? Or do you want to just leave it to the fire department?
For finding a cistern location.
Okay,
Cause we need to pursue with it. On this part. Yeah.
But you may want language in there, then if they can't find the location, then they can use those funds as
okay.
in their
Within
discretion, yeah,
after zoning
yeah.
review. Okay. And then. We're going to just leave that, then we're gonna take that second sentence. We'll put it down for a new condition. I'm gonna call 11A for now. And it'll say that a dry line, so the developer will install a dry line. Which goes down the hill to a hydrant in accordance with submitted plans. And now I heard that so you want the dry line within 40 feet of the road, correct? Fire department. Is that what was said?
The submitted plans don't include the standpipe. We did come up with a draft specification for the standpipe. My suggestion would be standpipe in compliance with the
Okay,
draft specification to simplify that, but
You wanted to say engineered plan?
yeah,
yeah, the spec required, the draft spec required engineering. I guess the problem we have is that, there's no way we have a final spec because it's gonna be a little bit dependent on the site and it's also. Something that we're kind of coming up with is a one-off to try to solve this problem, so. It's a work in progress, unfortunately.
okay, so. The developer will install an engineered standpipe and dry line which goes down to the hill. To to a hydrant in accordance with submitted plans.
What line are you reading?
I am reading, I'm on 11 and I'm on the second sentence, but it's gonna say the developer shall install an engineered standpipe and dry line which goes down the hill to a hydrant in accordance with. We can just strike accordance, we'll just strike that part since that's causing to a hydrant. And then standpipe to be located. I think I need-
As a reference,
Thank you.
the 40 feet that's in our letter. We were trying to think of it being near or at the water supply, so that if we are sucking out of the water supply. We only need one length of hose to reach the pipe going down the hill. So that's where the 40 feet came from. Could it be closer to the road? Sure, slightly. So it's accessible. That's our goal.
Can we say shall be located within less than 40 feet.
We have the room to bring it up close to the road. That's not a pipe and a standpipe. Well, that's in bollards or something around it. We can bring it up close to the road.
So we can move,
That's
yeah,
not-
let's just go with that,
Yeah.
they can bring it up
So-
closer, with just
Yeah.
keep it within the distance, and then that way we can keep. moving.
Yeah.
Less than 40 feet is good.
Less than 40 feet from the road,
40 or less.
That way we can move ahead.
okay? And that fire hydrants need to be within 500 feet of structures, is that
Okay.
right?
Ideally,
These are
150.
Huh?
Ideally, 150.
Split the distance, go 300.
Pardon me?
Split the distance, go
Or
300.
maybe ask the developers what they could do.
Can we-
Well-
Is that another one where we can say like less than 300, less than?
Well, the building envelope has been in question. It's not even being considered right now, but yes, we want it to be in that building envelope, 150 feet. Because usually we pull a bundle of hose, carries 150 feet and 200 feet. So we need to be able to attach to that hydrant and make an attack on this building. 500 feet is a lot of hose to drag down the hill,
So 150 feet of each structure.
correct?
Well, and Linda, if I may, again, all that's in the spec that we already drafted,
Mhm.
that's all covered. Unfortunately, we're all sitting here sort of devoid of a copy of that. You might actually.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. I have a copy of it, it's just, they'll have to actually then. So, yeah, I mean, I have their hand drawn copy, it's just that. They'll have to still get it engineered and whatnot.
But I guess what I'm a little bit nervous of is we're sort of, we're sitting here doing things that, the laws of physics control, and we're doing them off the cuff here in this meeting as opposed to with a little bit of thought. That's what we came up with. We're trying not to violate the laws of physics.
That's the action for this letter.
I was looking at our standards.
Here,
No, it's not in there.
do you guys wanna look at this, the developed, can you hand that to the back there? So you can look through it and see if that's doable for you. I mean, there's probably a stamp right here.
I kind of feel like what Mike just said, or Linda, is now that we got the game on the run, we're shooting everywhere, and
That's why I'm just trying to move ahead.
I
Let's just
agree.
Go with what we got.
I agree.
You don't agree?
No, you agree.
No, I agree. Let's
Oh, I
just-
see you shaking your head.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's-
I just want to
get
get
it set out.
it here.
Move forward.
Point being, we're agreed.
Yeah, so 150 feet within structure, yes.
Okay,
Let's move on.
let's not dwell on that. Let's move on.
Okay,
It's in the thing. I know I'm getting frustrated.
okay,
I'm gonna move on.
so that takes care of that part, that takes care of 12 altogether. Now we're just down to 14.
So
That which says that the Georgetown Lake Volunteer Fire Service Area. Will give a letter after you guys see the as built and then inspected well, we're crossing Sister now.
yeah,
And we're gonna put in standpipe, dry line and hydrant. Is that fine?
yeah, 150, I want to excuse myself. Generally, the outlets should be required 50 feet from each structure. If it's hot, getting 50 feet close to it is awkward. 150 is.
150. Let's just stay with that like we said.
You think?
150. You can carry 50 feet of hose if you need.
More like 100.
You're gonna make this work, Brad. We're trying to get through this.
We got carried all the way downhill.
And leave it when you go like the photo service starts. Whoops.
Burning it up.
Okay, so can we go, we're gonna go through the conditions one more time, I'll just read them. This is just reading them now. 10, we're not changing. 11's gonna say the developer will give cash in lieu of $10,000 to Georgetown Lake Fire Department for finding a cistern location
CPI adjusted.
in area. I don't, now this is me, you'll have to ask that guy that left. I don't think you can adjust, I think you have to go what's in there, within their regulations. Does your regulation say CIP
It's in the
adjustment?
rates.
What is
It was drafted 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to buy a truck. Same
well,
prices 5 years ago.
so we can put 10,000, see, I don't know what that means then, CIP
It
adjustment.
means you take the 10,000 and you do.
Well, I mean, I know what it means, but it's then hard to say you've met it, it's gonna be,
What the cost more you're saying? Then it will add up.
yeah, who's gonna determine what's the CIP adjusted?
Probably this guy just
Agree on that. He has them along, see. We're overrunning.
Sorry.
we know the legal ramifications. And we take a date, that's the date of closure.
Here he comes. We can ask him. It's a quick question, Wayne.
Yeah.
So on this one where they're gonna give cash in lieu of 10,000 CIP adjusted. That's what's in their regulations, but who determines what the CIP adjustment is?
So we do the, I would do that number that Mako gives us.
Okay,
Yeah.
according to Mako?
Yeah.
Can we say CIP adjusted according to Mako?
Yeah, it's a national.
Yeah,
price
yeah.
Index and it's established by the Fed.
Yeah,
That all right?
Sounds like, I don't know what Mike Mako does.
We don't-
well, we can use, if Mako's there, we just put in there the national. The
Okay,
national,
according to-
yeah.
Well, I don't think $10,000 is gonna buy a tank.
You're right. One, barely, not even delivered.
But again, the developers are not responsible for providing an entire system up there. They're required to provide their portion. And I feel like this is a fair portion amount of it.
I agree. I mean, we're getting somewhere.
So then we'll have an 11A that'll say, which will be really a 12, but anyway, that'll say an engineered standpipe and dry line which goes down to the hill to fire hydrants shall be installed. The developer shall submit as-built for the system to the county and Georgetown Lake Fire Department. The standpipe shall be located within less than 40 feet from the road. Fire hydrants shall be located 150 feet from each structure. Is that fine?
Red's thinking 150, he wants to go 50, but.
I do. I'll compromise with you.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do 75.
Okay.
That's a compromise.
Let's just say that they'll get as close as they can. And if they can get under 150.
Can we say less than 150?
That way, in case they can, if they can, and at least we said it. Otherwise, we're gonna sit here and go back and
Yep.
back forth, and I'm about done with this.
Okay, so on number 12, the second line's been crossed out, 13 has the word will. And 14 has the word cistern crossed out and standpipes put in instead. So now the question comes down to, can the developers live with this?
Can we add one more clarification and ask for
Oh, yeah.
third-party inspection on install?
Yeah, I think that's in here.
We'll have an engineer, third-party engineer inspect the dry line, other than the fire department signing off on it.
Good,
That makes sense.
makes sense.
It does, except for the, just so you know, the county requires you to pay for that third party.
Okay.
Okay. So on 14, we're gonna say that instead of the fire department
Get second.
inspecting, it's gonna be third party.
Just general.
Yes.
Go ahead.
In terms
State
of
your name.
Rex Young, volunteer fire department. And then speaking in a very, very generalized term, but these subdivisions. We're a volunteer organization that's aging rapidly. But we have limited capabilities. We will never not respond. It just makes it a lot tougher. And so I think we're a valuable resource that actually should be protected. The other leg of this is that we also respond to medical calls. So access to these is getting tougher and tougher also. So that's a general consideration, has nothing to do with this particular
But that's just how it is in our life, so.
We talked about that, it says it in the ambulance and stuff, and we talked all that over. Let's go back to the water thing.
So
Because I know I'm happy with what you said.
can I talk to you about CPI? It's through the Bureau of Labor Statistics, US, and then it's be for November 2022.
Good.
So good with that?
Yeah, whatever our contract date is.
Okay,
Okay,
Ready for a motion?
ready for a motion, Linda?
yep,
Chuck,
I'll make a motion to grant a variance for the steep driveway with the mitigation measures discussed.
And approval of the subdivision with conditions.
Yeah.
Correct?
here's what she said. I'll second it.
any public comment on it? It's not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done. Good job, everybody. I
Thank you.
think we come to a good thing.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you were saying. I didn't mean to be kind of rude about that. I just want to make sure we get through this, okay? Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Are you doing this next one?
All right, well, we gotta move on here.
Thank you, Linda, for all you do.
Retaining an expert witness.
So I guess the question is, you want this open or closed? I think that we've already talked about an open meeting, I believe, so I don't have an issue with it.
Okay, so. We,
You can close it for litigation strategy if you want, but I
well,
don't think
just
it's-
make, if we're
yeah.
gonna get an expert witness on your.
My-
Unless we should.
at this point, I think we should, because they're bringing up the arguments on what the duties of a surveyor are, and basically talking about this COS, which is a boundary line readjustment. I think it would be good to have expert opinion on that. Barney Hallen is a very good surveyor and helped us with that Combra case, and his fee was very
I
reasonable.
worked with him, he was a lot of help, I went up with him in 92. I'd entertain a motion.
Like question. Before you entertain a motion.
Yeah.
This expert witness, this expert witness is, he looks at it. And, okay, my feelings on this are that, the survey doesn't carry the weight that they're saying it's carrying, because there could possibly be mistakes.
Correct.
And they're saying because the survey was put of record, that means it
county-
overrides anything.
Yeah, the county accepted
The
that.
county accepted it,
And
and
yeah, it's not the case. The county accepts the form of it, not that every part of the survey is correct. There's a lot of documents in here that are not correct, because the county didn't have any duty to check those out. And so, yeah, having a expert surveyor helping clarify those issues of what's the duty of a surveyor in those cases, and what is the actual realities of once the survey is recorded, what that means. I think that'd be what he's, and they would, he would look at everything. Barney Hallen would do a short report, and then they could take his deposition. And plaintiffs would have to pay for his deposition time.
okay. I make a motion
Sorry.
that, Granite County retains an expert witness, versus those,
Okay,
Becky.
Huh?
Becky.
Becky versus Granite County.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Chuck will second it. Any public comment on this?
Also, I was gonna say he's in the range of like $150 an hour, but again, he was very reasonable with this, with the Comrade case, I mean.
Well, I think it's gonna come
Yeah.
out. So that,
Yeah.
you know. All in favor,
Aye.
Alright,
motion carried and passed.
Thank you.
All right, we're projected adjournment, I. Make a motion.
Just until, and then you have the Rumsey Mountain Tower meeting that begins at 11:30.
yeah, we're not getting out of here. this year.
We got, but you can adjourn the commission meeting, because then it'll be a separate meeting.
What?
Adjourn the county commission meeting.
Yeah.
And then
What's this
Rumsey
about?
The
The
Rumsey,
radio user
yeah.
association meeting.
re-upping the getting a new permit, because the permit expires in December.
Right.
Why is it separate?
It's not the
It's not
county
a
commission per
commission,
se,
yeah.
it's the radio association members.
So
Which,
there is usually, who is the member that's on the radio?
Mike was.
No, there was a commissioner too.
No,
Bart Bonnie was on
Yeah.
the,
Oh, Bart.
oh, I don't know, it's not.
So you
in
guys would
my
have
box,
to-
but-
I guess you could,
Bart was on the radio users association.
I just
Yeah.
said-
I remember because he was there when we went up and we were discussing having the TV districts.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of the members. And so, yes, we did.
So you want to be the person on the committee?
Do I? Okay.
Thanks for taking care of the meeting, I got a wreck to go on.
I'm just saying Bart was.
Yeah,
was-
you're right.
was on that.
I remember now you say him talking about it, but I know he was talking because the fire department was talking about putting something else. And remember, I was gonna rent out that other thing. Hey, I said that. Did you hear me?
Huh?
I said, you're right.
Oh. Was that the thing?
I don't think the meeting needs to be that long, I mean, just, yeah.
Yeah, I know this is the first time I think all the users have gotten together since prior to COVID.
Yeah. But if these meetings are gonna be organized, yeah, I think through the, like this, I think it's through the commission.
they,
Commission's office.
Via Zoom?
Yes, we're doing it via Zoom because that's how most of the users are going to be attending.
Are we on with them then?
I think Gary Wagner is on and he is part of this group, but yes, there will be lots of attendees.
With the highway patrol.
Yep, Highway Patrol will be on, Forest Service, hopefully.
We still have
the
a
Sheriff's
space up there.
Department.
Yeah, can we put some can use?
Yes, we have,
We don't want to give it up. We're talking about trying to make that TV better.
well, we take up a couple different spaces for the TV district. I think we have 3 spaces for the TV district right now, or 4. 1, 2. TV district, we have 3 spaces that we take up. Then we have Anaconda Amateur Radio Club is up there, of course, Anaconda Deer County, because we're partners with them. AT&T is up there, Department of Lands, Montana Highway Patrol, Northwestern Energy, RF Wave, US Forest Service, and then in the packets, there's also 2 other requests in there. There's one from the T-Mobile wanting to go up there, and there's one from Montana Public Radio from the U of M.
Why does T-Mobile, I guess that's something I asked. If we're fighting, we're not fighting, trying to get Verizon to pick up theirs, you know.
Verizon's working on, I think, a different site, getting another different
There's-
site.
You know, I'm excited for this meeting because there's been a lot that I've been reading and I'm still a little confused.
Went up to,
DEQ member too?
Department of State Lands. DEQ fall under Department of State Lands.
went up to Sims there for the football game, there was just a T-Mobile tower there and couldn't get any hardly Verizon, just the T-Mobile, it's crazy.
We got T-Mobile.
That's all they had up there in Sims, was they had a T-Mobile tower, right? You could see it from the football field, but
Where's this at?
Sims. On this side of Great Falls on Highway 200.
And I,
So it's pretty good then.
I think if you had T-Mobile, it'd be good coverage than Verizon. I didn't have any coverage. How's it going? Coming in for the
Yeah, I
radio
just,
association?
yeah, gotta get a little known, get known.
She does the billing. for it.
How's it going?
No.
Good, how are you? Good. How are you? My drive time.
Not shaking.
Hello.
Here's-
Shake your hand.
I'll
She
shake
didn't
your
see it.
hand.
Good pleasure. Bill?
What's new?
Who are you?
Bill.
Basketball season starting?
So ready for basketball.
What's your name?
Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah, it should be good.
Friday.
Nice
Yeah.
meeting you.
Hey, how do you do?
Okay,
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, have a seat there.
Right.
Hey, you're in uniform today. What's over there?
Have to. Makes me-
Oh, it does? Oh, okay, good. Not required 100% of the time.
Well,
Oh, good.
We are.
You're not too tough.
yeah. I just
So
left
who
it on.
runs it?
One question
I don't know.
before we have, Gary is co-host and Tom.
Done
is
as co-host, so I can't, so they can unmute themselves
Yeah.
and.
Do
do
they all get
unmuting.
unmuted so they can?
So since they're co-hosts, they can unmute themselves whenever
Okay.
they want to talk. I don't know who runs
I-
these meetings.
I'd say.
I'll kind of kick it
Oh,
off.
yeah. Okay.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
It's not it's the association that runs the meeting.
but I don't know who the chair is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Who's
Yeah,
the
any of
chair?
those folks
Go
out
ahead.
there,
We nominate you.
yeah, like I said, I'll kick it off, but are any of those folks part of this?
No.
It's one of them on Zoom, I think.
No. Settle it.
Not much participation.
And there's people online though. Let me.
Like the highway patrol.
We never did get that screen
Make
set up,
co-host.
did we, Billy?
No, I
Started
don't.
and it blacks out and then it goes
Um,
out. There for-
Well, let's do some quick introductions and then I'll kick it off just so we know who's online. So I'm Cameron Razor, the district ranger for the Forest Service in Phillipsburg.
Philip Wilt, administering the special use permits here on the Finley.
Rod Adler, Granite County Commissioner.
Lance McClure, Granite County Commissioner.
Chuck Hinkle, Commissioner.
Billy Klasky, Commission Assistant.
Blake Bradshaw, Granite County Attorney.
So
Sue Emily.
present,
Lovely.
and who's online?
If you guys want to unmute yourself, I have Osborne. I'm not sure.
Dale Osborne, Montana Highway Patrol.
Hey, Dale.
And Brian Garrett
Yeah, Brian Garrett, Northwestern Energy.
and Sean Gallagher,
Sean Gallagher, DNRC.
Tom Dunn,
Tom Dunn Communications and representing the two counties. Technically,
Gary Wagner. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself. Gary, we couldn't hear you if you want to hit unmute.
Yeah, he's muted. Gary, but he's not. Oh, yeah, he is a co-host. Unmute, Gary. There you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that is everybody I have. I don't have anyone else.
Gary, who are you with?
Anaconda Communications Board.
And Elena has a comment. Elena Gagliano does. So here we go.
Let's let him get started.
Okay.
We can take a couple of things and get down to it.
All right,
Okay.
so Philip and I were talking about this a little while ago, that this permit expires December 31st, 2022. So this month or next month, I guess it's gonna expire. And as we were kind of looking back, you know, as a radio users group, we haven't had a meeting for a long time. And I think it was even pre-COVID that it's been a while since there's been a meeting, and then obviously COVID shut a lot down, and I just felt that as a group, looking back at the old bylaws and the communication plan, the permit, we used to be pretty active as a group, and we'd get together and have lots of conversations, but we just haven't been doing that lately. And this is probably, we'll use this expiring permit as the catalyst to build this group back up and get us together again. Because there's lots of issues
with the contacts are all outdated. The communication plan. There was a draft that Philip was able to find from 2009 of up there of the site plan. Obviously, a lot has changed up there since 2009 for us with T-Mobile is now up there. Verizon is up there with their own tower and building. So the whole site has changed a lot. So the 2009 plan is outdated. We'll have to get a new one done, and that's on the Forest Service to get done. I found some concerns with the proof of insurance in the old permit. It was $1 million liability insurance that was supposed to be submitted, and the plan actually sent to the Forest Service every year. I couldn't even tell you the last time that we've received that, nor do I know that it's even required to have this policy. The bylaws, the members in the old plan, the site manager, the treasurer was supposed to come from Granite County, the site manager was supposed to come from Anaconda Deer Lodge County. Anaconda Deer Lodge has really been not a significant player, at least since I've been part of this permit this whole time, yet the permit was issued to them. So there's a lot of things that I feel that need to get cleaned up. Ideally, it'd be nice to clean some of this up before we reissue the permit, because my first big question is Granite County has always kind of been the lead with this permit. According to the bylaws, they were supposed to be just the treasurer, but really I feel like Granite County has done more with this permit than Anaconda Deer Lodge. So I don't know if there's history of why Anaconda Deer Lodge was given the permit and not Granite County. Maybe some folks on the line on the Zoom meeting that have been around for a long time know that history of why it went that route. But this is an opportunity to change it if the Rumsey Communication User Group deems appropriate to change it to maybe Granite County. If we're going to do all the work through Granite County, maybe Granite County should have the permit. So those are just a few things that we need to get cleaned up to reissue the permit. There's no rush. It's not like I'm going to make everyone take their infrastructure down because we don't have a new permit signed by January 1st of 23. But it's things that we need to clean up and get this permit going. So hopefully by the end of this winter, we do have a new permit that's signed by all the parties. We have updated bylaws. We have an updated communication plan. And, you know, get back to having the yearly meetings that we used to have. In the bylaws, it says the meeting is supposed to be in June every year. Well, again, it's been years since I think we've even had a meeting. So that just kind of kicks it off. I know you have an agenda that you kind of typed up, and I apologize, I haven't looked at that agenda.
You're fine.
But
Well, I think we had once you have said it, you know, these guys can get their insurances and get them sent for us too. Do you want it still at $1 million or what?
well, that's some stuff that we'll have to run down in the office. I don't even know if it's required. You know, why was it $1 million
Well, I think
policy in the beginning? I don't know.
I remember
but-
some of that one meeting we had that they were worried about each fire burning everything down, or if everything shorted out.
Mhm.
Somebody that Chuck, the TV guy, remember, he was saying, you know, they gotta be careful hooking this to that, it could burn up everybody else's shit. Oh.
Was it a liability policy that was?
It's written in the
Yeah.
permit, it's term condition of the permit.
I could see someone going up there and, you know, tripping and trying to, sue people. I see why they require it.
Cause then when they hauled some of that stuff up, I remember what they was steep, that
Yeah.
steep, with the truck taking that out and stuff. That
I-
was nice.
I'm assuming it's still in place. It just, we haven't gotten you
I remember them.
the certificate.
Mhm.
So just to comment, got an email from Elena, and she just wanted to be recognized that she's just attending as public. She didn't have a comment. We also have a Carl Hamming that joined us.
He is with Anaconda Deer Lodge County. I
Okay.
think he's in their planning group, but
Does he need to be unmuted too?
I have made him a co-host, so he should have full control, and then we also had Robert Morris to join.
I can see where they're probably, and they can speak for themselves, say they want to stay on that permit, just so that, because there's always that rivalry of who controls stuff. But I guess they can. speak
I
up for
am.
themselves.
I actually talked to Heather Edwards in Bill Everett's office, his executive assistant, and Tom Dunn can probably speak to this better, but I was under the impression that when this came together, that the two counties partnered on it, and that in order for both counties to kind of have equal control, that the permit was sent to Anaconda Deer Lodge County, and that they would have control over the permit in the site, and that Granite County would have control over the financial controls, so that they were kind of even partners. But That's the impression I have. I was not here, so.
I found mention in the site plan of a 2001 bi-county agreement that says exactly Anaconda Deer Lodge, the permit holder, facility manager. Granted, does financial, but I don't know where that 2001 agreement is.
We may have it.
What do I?
So Tom, can you add anything to this on a historic perspective, or anybody else that's on the call that's been around for 20 years?
Yeah, that's pretty correct. What we did back then is the original site was that little green building that sits at the very top of the chairlift, and there was Forest Service and Deer Lodge County was in it, and then we moved Granite County into it. There were like 3 radios in there, and that was it. We went ahead and come up with a plan to move. Job Corps built the building, and we picked the new location was picked, and building was set there. We originally put up a tower that was then taken down by Western Wireless, and they put up the tower that's there today, and then deeded that. They were supposed to have, I don't know what the paperwork is, it was supposed to have been deeded then to the site. And then the counties kept the building, ownership of the building. The partners came in as each put money in to develop the site so we could get, things going and stuff up there, and everybody moved in. So the people that are joining us today from the state and then Northwestern Energy and such were all partners in getting the infrastructure going. Mike Cahill historically has taken care of most everything up there, just because I think, it kind of got dropped to Granite County. And Mike just always jumped in and took care of it. And then, was good about sharing the information. Once again, he kind of took care of all the paperwork and was knowledge of most of what was going on up there.
This is Dale with MHP. In the original bylaws for the Users Association, it talks about the 6 original members, which are Granite County, Anaconda Deer Lodge, U.S. Forest Service, DNRC, MHP, and Montana Power. At that point, it was Montana Power. But it also talks about the association will consist of the following. The treasurer will be the representative of Granite County. Site manager will be from Anaconda Deer Lodge, and then one representative from each of the other site users will have a vote. It talks about. So I think that's part of the reason why things were done the way they were with the Forest Service lease.
Is there a site manager right now?
According to the bylaws, it says the site manager is Anaconda Deer Lodge County. Whether or not there's someone from there other than Tom that manages the site, I'm unaware of it.
Currently, it's kind of been Billy. So I think things, people have been coming to me and we've been just sharing information back. But it's like you said, it's been so long since we've had a meeting, and after Mike left, that kind of opened up to, changing back to maybe how things were handled. So I guess, I'm in agreement that we need to rediscuss that and get everything back on track of the way it should be managed.
Is AT&T still in the building, or have they moved out?
They've moved out, so the building is now empty for the 2 carriers.
So all of the cell carriers are out. Well, it was Verizon and AT&T. They both moved out of the building, correct?
Correct.
Did they pull all their stuff off the tower, or there's still antennas of theirs on the tower?
Last I was up there, I think it's still there. And I was going to speak to that a little bit. They left some stuff in the building too the last I was up there, but for the most part moved out.
Okay,
They left it on there due to the fact, and that's why AT&T's paying still, because in case they got a new wave or whatever they call it, that they could just have access to that still.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wondered, because that was my understanding. Billy said that they still are paying rent.
Yeah.
But they're not coming back.
Because there was a TV or another phone company or somebody wanted it, and I said, no, they're keeping it just in case they need it.
Okay, so what I just heard, thanks Dale and Tom. So there's a 2001 agreement between the counties that we don't have a copy of, and we're not sure who could produce this document. But if one of the counties can find it, or if somebody has a copy of it, that would be great. Did I also hear that it's fine, that we all agree that keep it in Anaconda Deer Lodge County's name? Redo the 2001 agreement, make it current, with Granite County being the treasurer and the holder of the financials. Okay. So have you seen the 2001 agreement?
I haven't, but I will go through this box and see if I can find something in there.
Are you talking about the Constitution and Bylaws agreement or something other than that?
This sounds like there's a 2001 MOU between the two counties.
I just
Be a book up here and have it.
I'll look in my stuff too. I've got a box of stuff that goes way back then, but I've since put it up in the.
Forest Service has a copy of the bylaws.
Yeah,
There should be something in the corporate, CEO's office at Ramsey Banking. I don't know. We also went into the planning department. It could be there too. I'll check on it. We have a meeting tomorrow morning, so I'll check on that, okay?
We're having trouble hearing you.
You having trouble hearing me? Oh,
You're little-
You sound like you have a
I
frog
think
in
he
your
said that
throat.
there might be something in the CEO's office, so I'll get a hold of Heather Edwards. She might have it on file too. I have a question if anyone knows anything on the billing, because Sue did the billing when Mike was here, so she is still kind of taking over the billing for this. But the way I was reading in some of the documentation, it kind of sounds like originally the idea was that there was kind of a budget made out every year. And in June, when we met, that it sounds like everyone understood what their portion was and paid that in, and it was paid out of the budget. But now it's like we bill out every month, but she really only ever bills AT&T
Wait.
or,
Okay. Are we talking about the lease or the power billing?
so why don't we start with the lease?
Okay, so the lease, the Forest Service lease comes in every year. And I take the lease and I do whatever my KO was doing prior to that. And AT&T is paying a significant amount of the lease. They're paying the most anyway. And then Dunn gets a bill. AT&T and
TV district, yeah.
And that's it. Why aren't
So-
that-
And it used
So,
to be,
go ahead.
what was it? Verizon would get a bill,
Crown Castle, which is AT&T.
AT&T, do they get a bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't get a bill. We get the bill from the Forest Service, the county.
And then we
County
bill them
pays the
out.
whole bill.
Right.
And then I bill back to Crown Castle, Dunn, and the TV district. That's who's paying the lease, and it's mostly 90% of that lease is being paid by AT&T.
Being paid by what?
AT&T.
I think they agreed to do
Yeah,
that.
they did.
Yeah. There was an agreement with them. But I thought they were giving up that, last emails I was sending, they were giving that up, but they didn't.
I
No.
remember.
Well, they're keeping it paid to the game,
Yeah.
because they've got, they're paying that bill.
Yeah.
And then
For the
Oh,
Forest
sorry.
Service bill.
So AT&T is still paying their bill.
Their Forest Service part. Now, here's another weird thing. Every 3 months, I send the power bills to Crown Castle and they pay the power, all the power for Northwestern Energy is going to Crown Castle and they totally pay.
none of the other users pay.
So Crown Castle, AT&T has a huge stake in the. With paying.
I believe they agree. Yeah, again, there's
So, yeah,
agreement.
we need to
Okay, so we should
check
find,
that box and see if I
we
can.
should find that.
So let me tell you the Forest Service perspective on the lease on the permit.
Let me take that.
It's our discretion to waive the fees for a lot of these other entities, Highway Patrol and the Grant County Sheriff's Department. We feel there's like a benefit to the public to have those up there. So as far as the permit goes, it was decided years and years ago not to bill for those uses, but to bill for the commercial uses of it. Which at one time Verizon, I think, was in that building, but so it's the phone companies, the Dunn Communication, anybody who's running a business and using that. We would waive those fees. Otherwise, we could be charging for those, but it's our discretion to not charge.
We as a TV district. It's not a commercial business, but we were told that we had to pay. So the TV district is paying on that too. And it's not a commercial business. It is a public use for, and actually, we put money in it from payment in lieu of taxes to cover expenses that have to be covered, but it is not
A money
a
maker.
business, public business. But we do pay a fee, and I think maybe there was a misunderstanding there. Yeah,
There could be, and we could revisit some of that through this new permitting process. But it's not like the sheriff's department, I guess. To me, there's a difference between the sheriff's department and TV that's only benefiting people who live in Phillipsburg and
yes,
Drummond.
there is. It's free TV for people.
This is Dale with MHP again. Historically, on Forest Service leased sites, any private entity such as the cell carriers, Northwest Energy, Tom Stuff, and broadcasters, and that's probably where the rub is, that the TV district is seen as a broadcaster because you have to have an FCC license as a broadcaster. You're lumped into the same thing as any of the primary TV stations in Butte would be KXLF or whatever. So you're lumped into that. So usually the Forest Service fees were aimed at all those, anything that was governmental or nonprofit, which would be the ham radio operator guys, but any of the governmental agencies, whether they were federal ones or state ones or local ones, were not charged any Forest Service fees. And that's probably where the TV district comes in, because you're seen probably as a broadcaster because you have an FCC license as a broadcaster, and that's why you were being charged a fee.
Okay, gotcha.
So should we be charging the Anaconda Amateur Radio Club as well? Or no?
That was hit and miss with most of the sites around the state that were in there. The hams are not charged, or were not charged, and I know everything's going to change the first of the year because of some stuff with the Forest Service, where a lot of that exemptions have been kind of a gray area, where the Forest Service has said we're going to charge everybody across the board, doesn't matter who you are, and that's still kind of up in the air whether that's going to get again the governmental entities, which the hams kind of fall into as a non-public, as a public service type thing, that they're going to get charged. So historically the hams have not been, but now at some sites, depending on the site, if it's a privately owned site, the hams would pay a fee. But if it's a governmentally owned site like this one pretty much is, they weren't charged.
Do you have power on a local level in that one, or it comes down from your?
If there's any
supervisor?
discretion, I'm sure there's new policy, it sounds like, coming out. I'm not privy to it yet, but it just depends how it's written, if there's discretion.
So question, we have T-Mobile up there now, and they're not paying anything?
They pay their own permit, because they have their own,
Oh,
so they're not part of this.
okay.
They're in the other building though, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So they're getting billed separately from this. It's only the entities that are within the county building that we're talking about right now.
Well, that he just said they are in the building.
No, they're in
Yeah,
the.
They're in a different building, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Verizon has their own also.
So, as we're on that subject, I got a question about that. And I did talk to this a little bit. Is there separate leases then, permits for each of the buildings up there?
Yeah, we have,
And when,
I believe it's 3 permits up there, T-Mobile, Verizon, and Anaconda Deer Lodge County.
interesting. So are those all need to be redone, or? And where I'm headed with this, is there a possibility to get them all under one permit where it all falls under the, this project here? And
The historic, I think that Tom, this is Dale again, I think historically you're still going to end up with 3 permits for 3 separate users, because they're 3 separate, there's 2 physical separate buildings, but I think each entity, it could be that you would have one for who owns that who actually owns that building that Verizon is in. So you've got that building, and then you have the building that we're all in. As long as there's only 2 buildings, there theoretically there should be 2 permits, one for each building, and then one person in either of those 2 buildings holds that permit. And if you separate the cell carriers from everybody else, I think for doing the paperwork part of it, I think it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
well, I'm wondering, so site manager wise, a lot of the sites that I go to, there's one site manager that processes everything. And I guess where I'm kind of headed for this, is there a possibility for the counties to become the site manager and then collect rent off the, those others being up there also? revenue to keep this site going, because that's gonna become an issue. Here is the amount of money that it takes to keep the site going. The building's 20 years old now. You know, there's upgrade, tower needs to be, you know, structural time to come in. There's lots of money that needs to be spent on maintaining it. So that's why I'm trying to figure out revenue paths to keep it going.
Yeah, Tom, I'm not an expert on communication sites, so I would have to defer this to my regional office. I could get you an answer on it. So that's not a good answer, but that's all I have right now. Back to the billing though, if AT&T totally moves out of your guys' site and no longer is part of it, your bill would go down because they're not gonna be a member anymore listed under there. So your bill's not just a constant, whatever, $5,000 or $10,000 a year. It's not set at that. It's based on who's subleasing space within the building and the tower. So if they're gone, then the overall bill's gonna go down. So
Right.
Sue said they're paying 80% of it now. Well, probably because 80% of it's because it's a cell company.
So what the cell companies are doing now is this is becoming common practice. Once they're in a building and they pay rent, they never vacate. They're going to pay rent forever, even if they're not there anymore. And they, as a placeholder, Verizon's doing it now. We're doing decoms for them around the state, and they're actually having us leave antennas or they're just continue to pay the rent, because it's easier to do that than to go back and ask to get back in the building again. So I'm sure that's what they're doing on this one too.
Okay.
So in other words, then they can come back anytime they wanted to because they're still paying rent, right?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Hey, Tom, is it the cell carrier doing it or is it Crown Castle doing it?
Well, this one's Crown Castle, which is kind of weird because, you know, they're not the cellular thing, but I think for AT&T has probably told them this is what we want to do. It's, you know, and AT or Crown is managing this lease for, this is another one too, because AT&T doesn't pay the lease directly. So they've hired Crown Castle to manage this lease for them. So they probably said, this is what we want. So Crown's just honoring their wishes. Normally it would be AT&T dealing with us directly, not Crown.
Does AT&T have a writer in there? Does Crown have a writer in there that as long as Crown Castle is managing it for AT&T, if Crown Castle has another entity approach them that wants to go into that site, does that give them the leverage to put someone else in that site under Crown Castle?
That's a really good question. And we did have an issue. Cameron might remember a couple years or here 3-4 years ago, we had to get the county attorney involved and stuff on it because they were actually locking the gates and calling it their site, and they were advertising it.
They were confused, and I had to, there was multiple emails to them telling them not to do that. And I think it finally got resolved, right?
For the most part, we still have a few little, but I mean, they went up and messed with, they took the safety climb off the tower. They did a bunch of stuff and they never, you know, they never said anything. They locked the gates and people couldn't get in and out. But there's still occasionally, there's been maybe once since then that we've had to take locks back, you know, they've put locks back on again and stuff, but they, for the most part, got the message.
Good.
Who was doing this?
AT&T.
Crown Castle. And they really felt it was their site. They didn't, I mean, just a big bureaucracy is, you know, big company. They didn't know any different. They felt it was their site.
They thought they had control of the whole thing.
I do remember that.
Yeah. That was a big mess.
I think I wrote him an email saying the Forest Service has control of this site.
I remember that. That was a big mess. Well, I guess you'll go through and get a new lease agreement and everything rolled up.
Yeah, looks like Sue found a draft from 2000 of the Bi-County Communication Agreement. So Billy, if you'll work with Anaconda Deer Lodge County and re-drum up this agreement, I think that would be good. We'll get going on the permit this winter. We get moving on that. I encourage us to relook at the bylaws and maybe get together as a group outside of a commissioner meeting sooner than later, maybe within the next 30 to 60 days, I think would be a good idea. And just get together, we look at the bylaws. Hopefully this agreement would be done, permit could be drafted. And it'd be good to have both county folks there too. I know Carl is on for Manakana, Deer Lodge County, but maybe Heather could come. So I encourage you to do that in the next month or two also.
Who should I work with at Anaconda Deer Lodge County? Tom, would that be you or you, Carl, or with this bi-county communications agreement?
Communication, Tom, isn't it? Excuse me, isn't that communication board? Tom,
The agreement should probably go through the communications board, and I'm sure Carl in the executive's office will be dealing with that too, but
Okay. So I'll send it to the communications board and the executive's office then.
okay,
And at this next meeting, I think that's when we can update the points of contacts
Fabulous.
and do all that. We'll talk about the permit renewal, where we're at with that. Yeah, but there was an MOU also between the Forest Service and the counties.
That's in there, I think. I think that's in
Yeah.
the packet.
Philip sent that out, or you did.
Yeah. I think
So
we got that
we'll
from
look
Heather.
at that. I kind of skimmed it today. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't super sure on why that was even developed, but because we have the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There were the two emails that I got. One is that request from T-Mobile and the other is that request from, is it the University of Montana for the Montana Public Radio? I don't know if you guys wanted to discuss that today or to roll that into the next meeting. That I had sent out. Did you see those? No?
I recommend we just roll it over and try to meet in January at some point.
Okay.
Because I remember the bylaws, it talks about it's a 2/3 vote to let new people in, and honestly, I don't even know where we're sitting with who are the true members now.
Well, once you get that all lined out, look at the bylaw, at least you have a leg to stand on, so instead of saying today, days.
Yeah, let's get our ducks in a row, and then maybe that could be the second part of the next meeting is we'll get everything done, elect new officials or however the bylaws are written. And then go into new business with all the new players.
Everybody good with that?
We have the bylaws then?
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll give you copies
can-
of them.
all right.
And I would say after the first year is probably better. We're coming into the holiday season and trying to get everybody together is going to be really tough.
Yep,
Yeah, I agree.
I'd hate to just wait till June like the current bylaws say, because June's a terrible month for us, at least. So busy, so,
Well, after the first year, you set it up.
yeah, January, February, March, somewhere in there.
Yeah. We have a public comment if you guys wanted to take that. Elena.
Before we do that, is there any other business that you folks on Zoom want to bring up or highlight?
I would ask one quick question. Did we get an invoice from PSI for propane up there? I never got word whether they went and filled that tank.
Yes, we did.
Okay, they told me they were going to, but then it snowed that following week, and so I hope they had gone there.
You
And
can
then
pay it. Not yet.
does the Crown reimburse that too, or? I don't know.
That's ours.
That's all right.
That's pushing it.
You can always see.
That's pushing it. Let's stay with, let's be, yeah.
Do we, for the upcoming meeting, do we want to meet in Anaconda or do we still want to meet in Phillipsburg? As we've done in the past?
We could go one then the other.
If we have Zoom here, would that help us or just do it here?
I think we're going to do constitution stuff and talk about some of this stuff. I think that probably a face-to-face meeting would work a lot better because then we won't have any audio issues or everybody can see each other face-to-face and there won't be any issues with sharing documents or swapping documents around.
Yeah, it seems like we used to meet up in the courthouse or courtroom, yeah. I don't care, I'll go either way.
My preference is filter.
Okay. Preference is Phillipsburg. Does anyone else have a preference?
Phillipsburg's fine. It doesn't matter to me either way.
Yeah.
So
I can-
Billy, will you facilitate setting up one in
I will.
January, early February?
Yep, I will look at, yep, that probably like that second week of January, third week of January, and I'll try to reserve courtroom one day.
Good.
So Billy, you have your current list of
Floor is yours.
members. So one question I have, this is Blanche with Granite County. Was a commissioner from Granite County on the committee? Because I know Bart Bonnie used to go to your meetings. Anyone?
Not that I'm aware of.
Bart Bonnie.
Tom?
Bart
Tom,
was,
do you-
Bart was the last one that was involved, so, I mean,
They probably just picked a representative and sent the representative to the meeting.
yeah.
Okay, so what did you say, Sue?
Well, there's, he was a member in 2015. There's a meeting. I thought,
But
He just went.
yeah, as a
Then I mean,
representative,
the committee or the board.
yeah,
Not.
but
It
as
says
a
member
representative.
Bart Bonnie, Commissioner, correct?
So the Granite County Commission could do that,
Yeah.
do a representative.
Thank you, Blanche.
I was there. I was fighting for the TV district the last meeting.
Did you guys want to take a public comment from Elena Dagliano?
Go ahead, Elena.
Thank you. For the record, Elena Gagliano. I have property up in that area and just a suggestion, I think it was Cameron who made it originally, that there should be an organizational meeting. That should be where every reorganization of who the chair and secretary, members, all that information should be on there where you're going to meet. Talk about the Constitution requirements as well as statutorial requirements. And you should set up points of contact, who contacts who and why. That should all be at the first meeting that you have. And there should be a chair, of course, or at least an acting chair. And that should be the first meeting. The other thing too is everything, the packet, I think it had a lot of information in the packet. Thank you for posting that. Going back to 2003, when Earl Martin was the chairman commissioner. And I think the commissioners should appoint at a meeting who is going to be the commissioner that's going to be at the meetings, the go-between, the go-to, whatever. I've said that before. It should be done for each one of these committees. There should be a commissioner that's involved and chosen to be involved. As far as having it in person and on Zoom, I think it should be on Zoom because there's a lot of people who aren't aware of this meeting that would have attended. There were a few earlier, they dropped out. We don't know if they were here for this meeting or what the story was, but the way things are going, Zoom is important. And there's also a way of sharing the documents on Zoom so we can see what everybody's talking about. Thank you. Those are my comments. And I wish you luck and I'd like to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, those are all great suggestions that we'll follow through with.
That it?
Good, yeah.
You guys all good? Everything good?
But you're taking the request from the public radio to the next meeting then?
That needs to just be a separate meeting of the user group.
Okay.
Once you get all that established and.
Yeah.
On a different trajectory than it's been in the last 3 or 4 years, or maybe 7 years.
All right, well,
We're
thank you,
pushing it.
everybody.
Thank you.
So this is Dale again. The Forest Service permit, which is currently permitted to Anaconda Deer Lodge County, is that correct? Is going to get renewed to Anaconda Deer Lodge County, is that right? And not Granite County?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, that just makes turning that wheel a little bit easier, not changing the county that it's assigned to.
Okay.
Correct. If this bi-county agreement is signed and finalized verifying Anaconda Deer Lodge owns the building, we will have to use a different permit form. The permit form currently is set up as a Forest Service owned property. So we'll use a slightly different form. I'm not sure how much that will change. Insurance or whatever requirements. As far as who leases what.
And is the ownership of the building, isn't it broken up with the 6 original entities who paid for it, or is it assigned for legal reasons to one of the counties?
I thought Granite County had it.
Or you can have those. I have them.
Good question.
If this is signed, then Anaconda Deer Lodge would be the owner of the facility. And therefore, if they're the owner of the facility, we'll use a different permit.
For the permit?
So yeah, the ownership of the building would be important. I wasn't aware that it was maybe divided amongst the 6 original entities.
Okay, so you're saying that Anaconda Deer Lodge is the owner of the building?
If this is signed, this draft that was dug up here,
Oh, we can,
lists Anaconda as the owner.
Well, I think if we can't find a signed one, I think we have to assume this was what was agreed upon,
Mhm.
but it can always be.
We're doing a brand new.
Modified, yeah, you would
anyways,
modify,
So it's
yeah.
a good template to start with. But yeah, we'll need to identify, because that, I don't know if that's significant for our permitting or not, who owns the building. I kind of feel like it's probably not significant. It's not us. We definitely know that. The Forest Service does not own it. They own the original.
I think the significance would be if we own it, there's the Forest Service owns the building, there's no room for subleasing. Whereas
We don't
if it's privately owned, it's subleased.
Yeah, you guys. You own that.
My guess is in 2003, when this was originally, this original permit was established, there was a totally different building that was way smaller. But yeah, and then a new one has been purchased since.
That's where the conflict number was a big deal. If you guys don't do that, then they're doing something that doesn't count.
Perfect.
All righty. Guess that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank-
See y'all in a month.
All right, bye.
All right, see ya.
If we could have like